Hi, Jim Colt here with MaverickCNC. I want to talk just a little bit about consumable condition and consumable life. These are all consumable parts that go in a Hypertherm DuraMax torch as used in the Powermax 45, 65, 85, and 105 systems. These are some used consumables. I think we did some cutting with them yesterday on a bunch of parts, and we call them all consumable parts because they do, over time, they wear out as you cut. The more you cut, the more often you're going to change them. The first two, the two parts that are closest to me are the nozzle and the electrode, and those typically wear on average on a one-to-one basis. When you change the nozzle, you probably have to change the electrode if everything's working right. If, for instance, your height control is not working right and you're piercing too close to the plate, you might change the nozzle more often than you do the electrode. So there's a lot of things that can affect these parts. And the next part is the shield. The shield actually protects the nozzle and also creates something called a conical flow technology that increases energy density of the arc to give you better cut quality. That works in conjunction with the nozzle. The shield generally will last longer than the nozzle and the electrode. Maybe, depending on what you're cutting, it could last twice as long and it could last 25 times as long if you're cutting real thin material and doing everything right. If a shield gets damaged, it will affect the cut angularity. If a nozzle gets damaged, it'll affect, that's what you usually see first, is more severe cut edge angularity on the edge of your cut parts. The next two parts, the retaining cap and the swirl ring. The retaining cap typically is going to last a long period of time unless you're doing a lot of piercing on very thick material, maybe thicker than we recommend for that particular plasma system that you're using. When you're piercing real thick material, the retaining cap can be damaged from the blowback molten metal that could adhere to it. And then last but not least, the swirl ring. The swirl ring is a multifunction device that works in the torch. It's made out of a high temperature rosin type material called Vespal. And what it does, it allows the electrode to slide, to move inside the torch. It also insulates between the electrode and the nozzle, which are negative and positive power output from the power supply. And last but not least, it controls the gas flow that develops the plasma cutting arc. It actually does what its name implies. It swirls the gas down through the torch, which has some very critical implications as far as cut edge angularity goes. So the swirl ring generally lasts a long time. I find that they usually go bad when you drop them on the floor and step on them, so then you need a new one. But they do wear out over a period of time, and the indication of them wearing out is an error code on the plasma system, usually a 0-30 error code called stuck consumables that causes the electrode to not be able to slide in the part. So these are all critical parts. Expensive, yeah, it kind of seems that way, that sometimes the nozzle comes in a 5-pack from Hypertherm, the electrode comes in a 5-pack, and when you buy 5 of them, you're gonna fork over, can't remember the exact price, maybe $25 for a 5-pack of nozzles and about the same for a 5-pack of electrodes. Where the true cost savings with a good quality plasma system on a machine that has good height control come into play is the life of these consumables. You can literally get thousands of feet of cut out of a set of consumables. So that's one nozzle and one electrode out of that 5-pack. So when you do the math, it's a fraction of a penny per foot for cutting for consumable consumption when you have a good system. Another thing I might want to mention, I don't recommend shopping for these online, especially sites that don't indicate that they are an authorized Hypertherm consumable distributor. There are a lot of knockoff copies of these parts that are coming. They're made out of inferior materials. They may be cheaper to buy at the counter or when you give the vendor your credit card, but when you start looking at the effects on cut quality, they do not last as long. They can cause arcing inside the torch and can cause torch damage, so you've got to be careful where you buy these. Make sure they come from an authorized Hypertherm supplier.